Unfortunately, day 3 changed completely from our original plan. The reason why, we're gonna explain to you next. Hi guys, thank you for watching our latest video. It was about our walk we did. We're supposedly to the summit of Mt La Perouse, and we did that a few weeks ago.
Yeah, it's a good one. This one you can actually do a full circuit on the southern ranges across to Precipitous Bluff, and then back down Uriva Lagoon to the South Coast track. That's quite a extensive walk, which I've done some years ago, but on this occasion we were actually just going to go up to the top of Mt La Perouse. It was a bit of a late start that day, so we only walked for probably 2 hours, I guess, on the first day to a nice little campsite that is probably not recognised on the walk, but it's actually a really good spot. There was no water, so you need to carry water on that one. It's probably 2 hours from the car park. It's pretty steep, so you start at Loon River, Mystery Creek Caves, which is absolutely worth a diversion. But yeah, the first day was pretty good, and we got up to the campsite just before dark, and then set up there, and that was the first night.
Yeah, and the second hour we started pretty early because we knew that it was going to be a long day to get to our second stop for the second night, which is the Pigsty Ponds. Planning that we're gonna do the summit of Mt La Perouse on either late that day if the sunlight was still there, or we would do that on the third day. But that was a long day, isn't it? Especially with the weather condition that we had.
In the actual film, you see that the weather conditions look fantastic, and look, the weather itself, the sky, there was no clouds. We had commanding views of Pinders Peak, Precipitous Bluff, Federation Peak, and all those different other peaks in southwest Tasmania. The views were amazing, but unfortunately on this trip we were absolutely smashed by gale force winds, and I've never quite experienced anything quite like it before. I would guesstimate it was probably in the area of 100 plus kilometres an hour.
Yeah.
You could barely stand up. In fact, I was sideways, actually walking sideways to sort of keep on the feet. So just walking into that was absolutely energy draining. Yeah, it was something I've never experienced to that degree before, and it was, even though it was interesting, it held us back. We couldn't get to the summit of Mt La Perouse. We got to Pigsty Ponds probably about 3:30. It was still absolutely blowing a gale by the time we set up the tent there. Look, it would have been ideal. If the weather conditions had been perfect, I would have just summited Mt La Perouse as soon as we got to Pigsty Ponds, because we did have time. Although this being at this time of year, the sunlight, obviously daylight is limited. A physically draining track, and to mix that with the gale force winds that we had, we'd sort of had enough by the time we got to Pigsty Ponds for that day.
Yeah.
And then obviously the second day, when we woke up during the night, we set up the tent. We had to guy everything on the tent. It was so windy, and then during the night it rained a lot.
On the next day, the wind completely stopped, but the rain came over and everything covered in fog. So when we looked up the summit of Mt La Perouse, we knew there would be no point of us getting up there just to find out. We couldn't see anything around, so we decided to head back. Yeah, just another pretty hard process to get back as well, because due to the rain, the whole ground is covered in mud and water, and some of the parts of the track we found ourselves actually go really deep into the mud part, and it's pretty hard as well on the last day getting out.
Very reminds me of certain sections of the South Coast track where you actually you try to keep on the track as much as possible, and minimal impact. We try to fan out where they ask you to fan out on the track, and obviously when you're going through muddy sections, you don't really want to make the track wider than it already is. So you try to stick to the track that's been is part of where everyone's walked. But unfortunately doing that, sometimes you lose yourself in the mud, and I was up to my knees a couple of times. But that's just the nature of that area.
Yep.
It's pretty typical, and
Yes.
the Southern Ranges is probably going to be one of the most exposed walking tracks in Tasmania, albeit probably maybe the Western Arthurs and the Frankton Range is probably going to be as bad or worse, but certainly Southern Ranges is right up there.
I have to say that this track in particular for me is probably one of the most challenging physically for me, not because of the wind only, but all the vegetation species on the ground is actually pretty bushy, and some part of it is actually overgrown on the track as well. So if you really want to do that, you have to quite an experienced hiker, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, plenty of scapuria up there. I think long trousers are probably required on those sort of tracks, because otherwise your legs get super sensitive after a while from scapuria. I'm thankful that we had long trousers on that trip, because we had to bash our way through there. But even so, we found we were bleeding on quite a few occasions from the hands and that. So gloves probably a requirement as well.
Exactly.
Scrub gloves, which is probably a good idea for those areas.
Yep.
Once you get past Pigsty Ponds and from there on, it's pretty serious. Once you get to Precipitous Bluff, which is probably one of my most favourite places that I've been to, but once you drop off that down to New River Lagoon, the track can be quite hard to follow, and then you've actually got to wade all the way back through New River Lagoon to Brian's Beach, in the campsite there on the beach on the South Coast track. So it's quite a challenging walk if you want to do the complete circuit.
Yep. But still, I think that we had pretty good experience doing that track, even though that we didn't get onto the summit of Mt La Perouse, but it's still going to be there for the next time.
And that's it for this little walk, and hopefully we can get out. It's obviously in the middle of winter in Tassie, so conditions are up and down a bit, but we hope to get out and do something a bit more challenging soon.
Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.
See you later.